Hi there, folks. My name is Gabriel Villarreal, and I will be applying for a job with the Peace Corps as an ESL teacher or English as a second language teacher. So let us begin, shall we? Hi there, my name is Gabriel Villarreal, and I am your 3 o'clock appointment. It is fantastic to meet you, Mr. Sullivan. I've been looking forward to this interview all week long. So, David, you prefer to go by David. Fantastic. I prefer to go by Gabriel, so I won't call you Mr. Sullivan if you don't call me Gabe, and we can continue our interview, shall we? So, David, you probably want to know a little bit about me. That's fantastic. That's the subject I know most about, believe it or not. Now, I was born and raised here in Corpus Christi, Texas, and currently I am attending Texas A&M University of Corpus Christi, where I am an undergraduate senior with my expected graduation date to be this May. And that is very exciting for me, and I'll tell you why. I did not graduate high school. As embarrassing as that is to admit, it is also the truth. Now, at the age of 15, I did drop out of high school and acquire a GED. By the age of 16, I started working at my first full-time job. I truly felt that I had a tactical advantage over my peers because, well, I was out in the real world making money, and they were stuck in some dreary classroom. Understandably, that is one of the most cringeworthy things that you will ever hear, and for me, it is as well. However, that was my mentality at the time. Fast forward 11 years later, I have now worked for dozens of employers, hundreds of supervisors, and alongside thousands of coworkers. And at the age of 27, I realized that enough was enough. I didn't know what I wanted to do in life, but I know what I didn't want to do any longer. I didn't want to scrub dishes and floors and tables and toilets. Never making more than $2 an hour, or never making less than, making as little as $2 an hour to never more than 10 to do these tasks. So in the spring of 2014, I walked into my first college classroom, and it has been the greatest experience of my life. The most challenging and the most rewarding as well. But more importantly, it has prepared me for that next question that you have for me. What qualifies me for this job? And this May, I will graduate with my bachelor's degree in communication studies, along with an advanced certification to teach English to speakers of other languages. Now, over the last year and a half, I have worked closely alongside several professors in the English department as a supplemental instructor and a tutor for their grammar course, English 3340. Now, those are my credentials. You probably want to know about some strengths that I come with as well. So my first strength is going to be my effective ability to communicate with people interculturally and intergenerationally. I find this to be rather useful when you go abroad and you walk into a land that you call foreign. Now, the second strength that I do possess is my empathy. I am a very empathic person, and I can give you a fantastic example. Now, I did let you know that I work at the university as a supplemental instructor. What you don't know is I also work at a hospital as a food runner. And during the course of my stay at the hospital over the last few years, I have been acknowledged by the patients, by the staff, by the nurses, doctors, and administrators of being a wonderful, wonderful employee, very empathetic and catering to my patients' needs. Now, many of them have tried to keep me there. They really don't want me to leave. However, I have to tell them the most heartbreaking thing in the world, and that's not where my true passion is. That's not where the love is for me. Now, I enjoy my job, and I do love it, but it's not where my heart is. My heart is in education. And I realized that in my second year of college. After a very fascinating political science lecture, I approached my professor afterwards and told her how fascinated I was and how inspired I was by her lecture. I never knew college was so wonderful. And I remember telling her, I love this place so much I never want to leave. She took me by the hand, and with a smile in her face, she said, neither did I. And that is why I teach. And for just one moment, On that spring day, the world stopped turning. And for the first time in 30 years, I was able to answer the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I want to be an educator. That is what I want to do with my life. I have seen many challenges along the way, and none more discouraging than the lifelong challenge that I have dealt with in food service. Now, in food service, there is a distinguishable difference between myself and those whom I provide a service to. And on some occasions, the people whom I provide a service to have used that power differential to treat me rather poorly, to belittle me at times. And I have found two ways to combat this, because the first 2 years of my professional life were the hardest. The last 2 have been the easiest. And the 2 ways that I have found to combat this is, one, being extremely nice to people. Believe it or not, it works. The age-old adage, kill them with kindness, does work. It is very difficult for a person to continuously scream at you at the top of their lungs when you are just being extremely nice to them. The second is going to be rapport. Now, that is long game. The longer you know somebody, the more likely you are to establish common ground, the less likely you are to fight with one another. So it has helped me in the long run. However, it is not all smiles. There is lots of conflict that does arise. It's as unavoidable as taxes, one would say, and there are ways to combat it. Now, when it comes to conflict, I don't enjoy it. Nobody really does. However, I approach it in a very different way. I don't see conflict as anything more than a learning or teaching opportunity for one side, the other, or both about a particular issue that they have. And I'll give you an example. In my line of work at the hospital, there are many things that I am incapable of doing, mostly for liability reasons. I don't tell people that because the word liability comes with a rather negative connotation. So instead, I explain longhand why I can't do these. For example, when I deliver food to a patient, I am not allowed to adjust them. I know little of human anatomy and even less of what is wrong with these people. And so it is highly advised that I do not do that. Another example would be whenever I show up to a patient's room and there's nobody to be found. I cannot leave a tray unattended for many reasons, and so I take the tray and leave it at the nurse's station. In both occasions, the nurse and or the patient may assume that I don't want to do my job or that I'm trying to cut corners, and there can arise some conflict. However, by explaining to them that this is part of my job or this is not part of my job, I'm incapable of doing these things, or I am not allowed to, it definitely helps calm the conflict that could arise between myself, the patients, or possibly the nurses. Now, I know the next question you're going to ask is the more embarrassing one, and for most people it is, but for me, even more so. You would like to know what skill that I need improvement on and how I will do so in the Peace Corps, and rightfully so. You should. Now, the skill that I need improvement on is rather embarrassing, but I will admit it. Now, I've told you that I've worked for dozens of employers, hundreds of supervisors, and thousands of coworkers. These numbers are not embellished. They are not an exaggeration. They are statistically accurate. Prior to college, I had bounced from job to job. I did not make it very far in any of them. I never completed a solid year with any single employer. I dropped out of high school. My personal and professional relationships met very quick ends. I have improved greatly on this skill since I have been in college. I have managed to go to school every semester, spring and fall, for the last 6.5 years consecutively. In the last 6.5 years, I have worked for 4 different employers. The first I had to quit due to geographical relocation. I moved to a different city here, Corpus Christi. The second job, I unfortunately had to quit due to scheduling conflict. Further you get down your college career, as you know, the less availability you have with your college schedule. And so her schedule did not coincide with mine, and therefore I had to quit. The last two jobs that I have held, I currently hold. It is at the hospital and, of course, at the university as well. And I believe that the Peace Corps will help me in my positive trajectory of being able to commit to these things long term. Now, again, I have mentioned that I've worked for hundreds of different supervisors, so I've seen every management style you can think of. Literally, quite every one in the book. And I have learned that management styles are rather contextual, and I prefer a kind of a mixture, really, of several different management styles. And I'll give you an example. First, there are times that I do prefer a more democratic style of management because I believe that everybody's opinion does weigh equally. However, there are other times that I believe that a more laissez-faire style of management is more appropriate because I would hope that my supervisors and my superiors can trust in my judgment to make the right call. However, there are times that I do prefer a more autocratic style of leadership because it's just sometimes for the good of the organization as a whole. So overall, I would prefer a healthy mixture of all three. That would be my most ideal of work environments, really. Now, I know we are coming to the end of our interview, and you are going to ask me the most awkward question of all of them, and that is my income expectation for this job. Now, I have done my research, and the research tells me that the starting pay for an ESL teacher is anywhere between $30,000 and $60,000 a year. Now, that is a very large pay differential, $30,000 and $60,000. I'm under the impression that 30 means you're green, while 60 means you're seasoned. I don't feel like I am either of these things. 45 is a very nice average, but I have never felt that my skills were just average. So I believe between $48,000 and $50,000 would be a reasonable compensation for this position. Now, of course, that is negotiable based on the other benefits that the Peace Corps does have to offer. So, David, it has been a fantastic opportunity to speak with you today. I have really enjoyed my time here with you, and I look forward to keeping in touch here in the future. I would like to take a business card so that we can keep in touch here in the future about this opportunity. If not, maybe, something else here in the near future as well. Again, it has been fantastic speaking with you. You have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you for your time.